And we're live. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another exciting episode of CampusCare Debate, a platform where the school leaders as well as students come on board and discuss their point of views against and for the motion on burning topics of the society. Today's topic is democracy the right type of the government? Now, I know there are a lot of agitation going on, and there's a lot of conflicting viewpoints going on at this point of time around our diaspora. So we thought, why not? Let's have the kids battle it out for the same. So today we have lovely educators with us and lovely kids. The first school who will be participating is the International School Agra, UP. Mohini and Shravya would be representing the school. If you guys please could introduce yourself, Mohini and Shravya, one by one. Mohini?
Good evening, everyone. I'm Mohini Sharma from Class 10, the International School Agra, and I'll be speaking against the motion Is democracy the best form of government?
Exactly. Shravya, over to you.
Hi everyone, this is Shrabhya Gupta. I'm from the International School Agra. I'm a 10th grader. This is my board year. I'll be speaking for the motion and I'll be looking forward for a very fun and interactive debate. Thank you.
Wonderful. And thank you so much, Shravya. Even I'm looking for a very fun and interactive debate. Next we have is the Darbari Lal Foundation World School, Greater Noida. Uh, for the motion, we have Rashi Singh. Rashi, over to you.
Good evening to everyone. I am Rashi Singh from grade 9 and I will be speaking for the motion.
Next from Darbari Lal Foundation World School, we have Ananya. Ananya?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Renukadevi. I'm a student of class 9th, and I will be speaking against the motion on the topic Is democracy the best form of government?
Thank you so much, Ananya. The next school is the Manthan School, Greater Noida, West UP. And the representative for them against the motion is Shobit. Shobit?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Shobhit Sharma, and I'll be speaking against the motion on the topic Democracy is the best form of government. I'm currently studying in 10th grade in the Manthan School, Greater Noida West.
Okay, next I have is Khushbu for the motion.
Hello, everyone. I'm Kushbu Sharma from the Mantra School. I'm in 10th grade currently. I'll be speaking for the motion Democracy is the best form of government. Looking ahead for an interactive session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Khushbu, but I would request you to please be a bit more louder because I could hardly hear you. And I'm sure so as the judges and so would be my subscribers. Now, all right. So the next school we have is Gyan Vihar School, Jaipur, Rajasthan. And for against the motion, we have Kashish Khemani. Kashish?
Very good evening, everyone. I am Kashish Kimnani. I'm studying in class 12 and I'll be speaking against the motion Democracy is the best form of government.
So you mean democracy is not the best form of government or is the best form of the government?
Democracy is not the best form of government.
All right. So next we have is Nishtha for the motion from Gyan Vihar.
Good evening, everyone. I am Nishtha Chaudhary. I am studying in grade 12 and I am today speaking in favor of the motion that democracy is the best form of government.
Thank you so much, Nishtha, and we shall see. Now from Lucky International School, Jodhpur, Rajasthan, we have Ekansha Patnaik should be talking about for the motion.
Greetings, everyone. As mentioned before, I'm Ekansha Patnaik from Lucky International School, and I'll be speaking for the motion. That is, democracy is the best form of government.
All right. And for against the motion from Lucky International, we have Naman.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Naman Rashwa from Lucky International School, and I'll be speaking against the motion.
All right. Thank you so much, our young boys and girls. So let me quickly introduce you to our judges. First, we have a very renowned educator with us. She is the principal of Bedi International School, Bareilly, UP. Please welcome J.K. Sawhney, ma'am. Hi, Jasmeet, ma'am. How have you been?
Yeah, I'm good. Nice to be here.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I hope you have a wonderful time. Any
Yeah,
words
sure,
of
sure.
motivation for the kids?
Yeah, sure. I do wish all the best to all our contestants and do look forward to listen to their views.
All right. Thank you so much, ma'am. Next, we have Renukadevi, ma'am. She's the principal of CDE D.A.V school, Ammarpettai, Chennai. Renuka, ma'am, over to you. Few words of motivation for the kids.
All the best, children. It's the topic is very good. It's a current scenario which is going on. Okay, I hope so. Everyone know about it. Every day we are watching TV and we will be getting various issues on that. Now corporate also come into the picture. So it's okay, as a citizen, each and everyone should know about the things which is going around us. I hope so. All the children will participate in this properly and explain your views, and we will be judging on that. Okay, don't worry about things which you don't know. Whichever you know, you present it. Okay, thank you, children. All the best.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And last but not the least, we have Mr. A. Anthony Robert Kennedy, sir. He's the principal of Indu International School, Erode, Tamil Nadu. Robert, sir,
Happy and vibrant evening to all. All the best to each and every student. Thank you.
thank you so much, Robert, sir. So, without further ado, let me quickly introduce you to the rules of the show. So, every contestant will get 5 minutes to speak on the topic. The speech must not exceed 7 minutes. After you've finished your speech, the floor will be open for interjection. An interjector is allowed only one question per contestant. Cross questioning this time is not allowed. Speaking out of turn or any misbehavior can lead to immediate disqualification. The decision by the jury shall be deemed final. So let's begin for our further motion category that democracy is the best form of government. And from first, we have Akansha Patnaik from Lucky International School, Jodhpur, Rajasthan. Akansha, the stage is all yours. Please take it away.
Thank you. I believe that democracy is the best form of government, and I'm here to prove it to you. And I'm sure that at the end of my speech, all of you will believe that it is the best form of government. There
Akansha,
are a few
Akansha,
reasons to
Akansha,
why I believe so.
Akansha. At the end of the speech, we might believe that
Yes, sir.
democracy is the best form of the government, but darling, before beginning the speech, if you could please ask somebody not to put that hammer down right now, because it's going to create a lot of disturbance. All right, you can begin though. You can begin.
Sure. Okay. So, jumping right into why I believe that democracy is the best form of government. Democracy promotes one of the fundamental human rights, and that is freedom of speech and expression, which states that everyone has the right to express their opinions without the fear of facing consequences. Out of all the advantages that this promotes, one of the best one that I feel is that it helps people to grow as better citizens, grow as better people, and be able to express their opinion, and that opinion will be able to change this their nation for a better. Freedom of speech is very essential, as well as um, other human rights. But freedom of speech is the most prominent one that I could see. People can be proud to be of a nation where they chose their leader, they chose to be happy, and they will live in peace and harmony. Secondly, I believe Secondly, why I think that democracy is best form of government is that democracy is to, for, and by the people. Unlike um, a non-democratic country where the people are always under one person who is the dictator. For instance, not a very long time ago in Malina, Philippines, the military would go down to streets and form checkpoints as the president established his dictatorship. People were belted and patted down to the ground. Imagine what's going on there in their head: fear, hopelessness, and imagine all those kids looking at their elders getting tortured in such a way. Even survey shows that democracies, the people in democracies support their democracy no matter how wrong or no matter how um, wrong some people are. Democracies are way more better than non democracies as they are not as corrupt as the non democracies. And finally, I believe that democracy is the best form of government because if you look from a different point of view, then you'd see that the alternatives to democracy are way more worse than democracy. Yes, I agree that democracy might have a few ups and downs, but again, as I said before, the alternatives are worse. I'd like to rest my case here.
All right. Um, I will now open the floor for interjection. Would anybody from against the motion? Okay, we have one Kashish.
Uh, Hi, Kansha. As you said that democracy is not corrupt, uh, are you sure that it is not at all corrupt? I think there's a lot of corruption going on in India as well, which is a democratic country.
I think you misheard it, or maybe it didn't reach you, but I said democracies are not as corrupt as non
Yeah,
democracies.
she,
So,
she said it's not
so
as
yeah,
corrupt as a dictatorship. Basically, not as democracy, but what she meant was democracy is not as corrupt as dictatorship. That's her point of view. All right. Thank you so much. I am not allowing cross questioning this time because we have 10 kids to go through. So, all right. Thank you so much, Akansha. Lovely point of view. Uh, at the end of the debate, we'll go to each and every educator and discuss what they felt like about you. So, next we have is Khushbu.
Yes, sir. I hope I'm audible now.
Khushbu, a bit louder, please.
Sir, am I audible now?
Yeah, go on.
Yes, yes.
Okay. People shouldn't be afraid of their government. Government should be afraid of their people. My warm greeting to each one of you. We have so many alternatives to choose from, so many systems of government to choose from, monarchy, socialist, autocracy, etc. But then, ladies and gentlemen, I stand here to prove that the best of all these, which has been tested and trusted for centuries, is none other than democracy. When we say democracy, it means power to the people. It means placing the people over politics. It is undisputedly the best form of government as it respects and promotes the human rights by ensuring the provision of fundamental rights to everyone alive. It is undoubtedly only in a democracy that the farmers can be seen demonstrating against the PM. The concept of equality before law is very evident by the example of 2G spectrum Ghodala, where even at that time the then ministers were summoned by the court when accused. The Chora Ghotala can be another great example, where the then Chief Minister of Bihar, Lalu Prasad Yadav, and the former Chief Minister Jagannath Mishra were sentenced to jail without any VIP or special treatment. People say that non-democratic countries are better in economic growth. But the fact is, like non-democratic countries like North Korea, only focus on their own profit, which results in more progress of the one on the throne. Whereas democracies like India, help in improvising the condition of the farmers, of the local people, and help them to bring above the poverty line. Schemes like Narega, MSP, etc. can only be seen in democracies. Huge sums of money are invested in these programs. All the democratic countries of the world follow secularism. India follows secularism by not allowing or not promoting only one religion. There are means and ways by which the minority religious groups can express their ideas, can popularize their own religion. Whereas in dictator countries like Saudi Arabia, no non Muslim can even openly follow their religion. And even some places like Makkah and Medina restrict the entry of non Muslims. It is no coincidence that Norway tops the Global Democracy Ranking of 2013 and again tops the UN Development Index of the same year. In fact, all the top 10 countries of the former are amongst the first 21 in the latter. The fact that most of the constituent states of USSR adopted democracy after its disintegration is in itself a testimony to the success and necessity of democracy. No one of us can deny the fact that even the very successful UK required a constitution along with the monarch to engineer this feat. A study proves that democracy has been trending upwards since the 1970s. To conclude, a democracy is where people get what they deserve, people get what they desire, and not because it was forced down their throat. It is a form of government where the leaders think of justice and not just us. Thus, I conclude my speech by proving that democracy is the best form of government. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Khushbu. That was indeed very powerful. So now I'll open the floor for interjection. Any questions? Shobit.
Yes, so in your speech, you mentioned that farmers are like farmers are demonstrating in front of the PM. So let's just leave farmers for now. I would like to tell you that in October 2019, there was a case in which police filed a sedition case against 49 people, and it included well known personalities also. They wrote an open letter to PM Modi expressing concerns over hate crimes and mob violence targeting minority communities. So, what do you have to say about that?
See, I'm pretty sure that that case was just not against writing an open letter, as writing an open letter is not a crime, Shobit. I guess there were other problems as well. There was something illegal done against which the case was filed.
Wait. Uh, I'm so sorry I'm interfering, Shobit, but you contradicted your own statement. Did you not?
So, what?
You contradicted your own statement, did you not?
So, I didn't understand.
They went to sedation for writing an open letter, or after they went to after they were charged of sedation and then for writing an open letter. That's what you said.
Yeah, I said that first they wrote the letter, then a
Yeah.
case was filed on them.
Okay. Then for writing the letter, the case was filed
Yes,
on them.
yes, sir. You can
Okay.
search it.
Okay, Khushbu, what do you have to say about that? If you could repeat that.
Yeah, I said that, of course, writing an open letter is not a crime and you cannot be put in jail for writing an open letter. If you read the details of the case, it was not just because of writing an open letter, there were many other illegal things done as well.
Like,
Like there were many examples which I obviously not remember exactly, but it was I can clearly say that it was not just because of writing an open letter.
okay,
That
guys,
would
all right, Khushbu, no problem. I won't put you under the pressure or something under the gun. But guys, when you're stating, let me make this one thing very clear that if somebody has interject based on facts, and when you're rebutting, rebut based on facts, not hypothetical situations, facts. All right, that will help you get marks because all these educators will look for facts and figures as well. All right, no problem. Moving forward, next we have is wait, let me see who we have next. Yeah, next is Rashi. Rashi. over to you.
Man, according to Aristotle, is by nature a political animal. He forms and lives in a society with his fellow men, and he wants to rule and be ruled. Hence, the emergence of the concept of government. There are different systems of government. Broadly, we have the government by the majority, government by the few, and government by a single person. Now, the question that arises is, what is democracy? Abraham Lincoln famously defined democracy as the government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Thus, we see that democracy is a people centered government. Before the spread of democracy, colonial empires were commonplace. Colonial empires were systems of government that were ruled by kings, queens, or autocratic leaders. The common characteristics of a democratic state are free and fair elections, active participation of citizens in the polity through the party system and the voting system. The atrocities of dictators such as Joseph Stalin of the Soviet Union, Mobutu Sese Seko of Zaire, Adolf Hitler of Nazi Germany, Benito Mussolini of Italy, Idi Amin of Uganda, etc., only give credence to the popular saying that power corrupts and
And
absolute
absolute
power corrupts
corrupts absolutely.
absolutely. Let's examine democracy with a few points. First, rule of law. This encompasses both the supremacy of the law, that is, the constitution, and equality before the law. Thus, the law is above everyone, including political leaders and every citizen, regardless of status, whether economic, social, or political. Number two would be fundamental human rights of citizens. It is not uncommon to hear cases of mass brutalization of citizens, extrajudicial killings, and other sorts of injustice meted against helpless citizens in autocratic countries. Meanwhile, in a thriving democracy, such news are hardly ever heard because citizens are the majority. They hold the power and they wield it as they please. There are also strict provisions for redress in case of breach of these rights. Number three is legitimacy. Since a democratic government comes into power through the vote of the people and in accordance with legal requirements, the government is legitimate, real, and accepted. This is fundamental because it gives citizens a sense of belonging and responsibility, and it gives them the confidence to objectively criticize unfavorable government policies through recalls and protests. Number fourth would be sound decision making process. In a democracy, the decision making process In a democracy, the decision making process is subjected to a lot of consultation and scrutiny. For instance, when an issue comes before the legislator, extensive debates and public hearings are taken on it. Before such can become a bill, an executive assent must be sought before it becomes a law. And even when it becomes a law, but it is invalid perhaps in the procedure, the judiciary has the power to declare such a law null and void and of no effect whatsoever. Number fifth, change of government. The fact that democracy is a government of the people, by the people, and for the people shows that the people can easily remove a leader who turns out to be corrupt, ineffectual, vile, or anything unwanted by the people. Now, let me share the example of the largest democratic country in the world. That would be India. India is staying as one unit despite having vast number of cultures, languages, and religions. Many countries are lost in the battle of separatist politics. For example, recently Britain is exiled from United Kingdom, but India managed to keep itself as one entity. RTI Act 2005 and Right to Education Act 2009 have empowered the people. Mass media have full autonomy, and play a huge role in formulating and influencing public opinion. On social and economic front also, India has been performing substantially. Minorities and disadvantaged sections are represented in parliament, which enabled inclusive growth. Education. Sanskar Bharat is being implemented to develop functional literacy and numeracy among non-literate and non-numerate adults. Employment. Johar Gram Samriddhi Yojana for creation of rural economic infrastructure with employment generation. Women development. Besides constitutional provisions, several laws have been enacted, policies have been made and implemented, and institutional reforms have been carried out. 73rd and 74th Amendments of the Constitution in 1993 have reserved one third of seats in the Panchayati Raj and municipal corporations for women. So, democracy is a government of the majority of the people, and there is only one reason why it is the by far most practiced of all systems of government. It is simply the best. It is not just one person dictating for the majority. No, it is the majority deciding what is and what is to be. Why then will democracy not win over all other forms of government? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rashi. By the way, did you say whom did you quote when you quoted that quote? Power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Whom did you quote?
No, so I didn't quote anyone. Actually, I was talking about the dictators.
And that's a quote. So, okay, because I thought you quote Machiavelli. All right, no problem. And I'll open the floor for interjection now. Anybody who wants to interject? Nobody wants to interject? Really? Okay, I guess Rashi, you were very clear in your thoughts. So I'll move forward to the next contestant. Uh, Next we have is Nishtha from Gyan Vihar School, Jaipur.
Greetings to everyone. To start with, I would like to quote a saying of Abraham Lincoln: "No man is good enough to govern another man without the other's consent." It suits on democracy the best because democracy itself means rule of people. Before I proceed further, I would like to first define the democracy. It is a form of government in which the people have the authority to choose their governing legislators, or we have commonly read it as democracy is the government for the people, by the people, and of the people. Democracy gives people certain rights. Firstly, right to freedom. Democratic states nearly always have freer people than autocratic states. They obviously have the right to vote for their government, so by extension, deciding the policy of their nation and what their nation should be like. They have more freedom of speech and expression than in autocracies. In particular, they are free to criticize their own government, to articulate their opinions and ideas without the fear of retaliation, censorship, or legal sanction. Freedom of speech and expression is not absolute. Now, here a question arises that although being a democratic country, it is not absolute. The reason is that the form of government plays no role, but people of the country do. So, it is not absolute because freedom of speech and expression does not mean to hurt or to abuse someone's sentiments or to go against the laws of the basic fundamental rights. Secondly, the government represents the views of the people who elect them and can throw them out of the government, does things that people do not like. Thirdly, democracy is a transparency, or we can also say that democracy is accountable to its actions. Democracy is as much about having checks and balances to the executive and having transparency of decision making as it is about elections and the populace throwing government out of power. In a democracy, the parliament, the media, and sometimes the judiciary all keep an eye on the executive and what is being done with the people's money. They are therefore able to see if the executive is doing things that are detrimental to the country or are even illegal or immoral. This can be brought to a halt. Even where such actions are not visible on the surface, there are separate institutions that have the power to investigate the executive and watch any secret deals or actions that are going on away from public view. Fourthly, democracy promotes and respects the human rights. If democracy is put at its appropriate performance, then all facet of human rights is respected. The ability of the people to have a voice in the running of the state, in the economy, in the education, health, infrastructure development, etc., creates a bit balanced environment for governance to thrive. This can only be achieved in a democratic governance. Nothing can be best. Everything do always have some pros and cons. But as far as the choices are concerned for present forms of government, then democracy is preferable above all. Now let's take some example. I'm taking example of North Korea. It's a dictatorship at present, and we cannot say that people there have freedom of speech, expression, or speech. What I know is that all TVs and radios they are tuned to state channels, and people caught listening to foreign broadcasts face harsh punishments. These controls mean that most North Koreans may have little or no idea of world events or how their country is thought of by the outside world. But democracy is not the perfect form of government, but it is better than the other forms of government. The most important thing in democracy is the decision making authorities and the decisions are questionable and the government is accountable to public. But in other forms, the leader is not questionable. It is not necessary for a particular position holder to be always right, and that's where democracy exceeds. In the end, I just want to say that democracy is a structure, it's a guideline, it's a form which states some rights and duties which can only be successful when there's a two-way medium of cooperation by the government and public in free and fair manner in keeping the mind of the nation's development. And as I said in starting, that no one can govern us without our consent. So democracy gives us choice, and with our consent, we elect those by whom we want to get represented. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'll open the floor for interjection. Anybody who would like to interject? Khushbu?
Um, I
Ananya,
wanted to
go on.
ask. I wanted to ask something that I see lots of parties with different ideologies coming together to form a coalition form of government, like a coalition government. Do you think that this is opportunistic and it's against the crux of democracy?
See, what I feel is that coalition government is basically when you want to be in power. And what happens in democracy is that we have competition, we want to be in power. And in that competition and that power, what is the main focus? That focus is welfare of the people because they know that people are the one who will vote them. So until and unless they will not do for us, they will not be in power or they will not be that position holder.
Okay.
But how does that answer Ananya's
Mm.
question?
Ma'am, sir, I actually asked like a different thing that a coalition government
Yeah, a coalition government is
is
it's okay.
I personally think that isn't it like against the crux of democracy and it's very opportunistic.
And it's not yet your turn, Ananya. Let's hold our horses. You'll get your chances. No problem. All right. So I'm so sorry, guys. So let me quickly introduce our next contestant, Shravya from International School Agra.
Sir, am I audible?
Yes, you are. Please go ahead.
Okay. Man's capacity for justice makes democracy possible, but man's inclination to injustice makes democracy necessary. There's a lot of things that I can talk about democracy. There are a lot of positive aspects. The whole world is now adopting democracy. More than 50% of the countries are now democratic. Why? Because it is a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. It promotes equality. It gives equal chances to people, and nothing can be unilaterally changed. It promotes women equally. It is based on free and fair elections, and it allows to adapt to the changing ideologies. Now, let me get into the broader meaning of democracy. Democracy ensures that all the decisions that are made are based on norms and procedures. And if a citizen want to know how the decision was taken, he can actually find this out. And that is what it clearly states, it's transparency. Democracy is a transparent and a legitimate government where everything is open, everything is openly discussed, and this gives us that clarity of every decision being taken by the government. We can openly criticize in the public. Do you think any other form of government like dictatorship or autocracy provide these freedoms, provide these rights? No. And if you criticize openly, then they'll suppress you, they'll punish you. Well, we all are aware how diverse our country is. People are bound to have so many differences in this interests, views, culture, religion, languages, and whatnot. Do you think that just a one man show works here? Just a one person can handle all these conflicts, all these diversities, all these differences? Answer is no. And if it does, then it will result in the resentment and unhappiness of people because they have to accept what they're not supposed to or what they don't want to. Again, the answer to this and the solution to this is democracy. Because democracy provides a way to deal with these differences, these conflicts. Why? Because no one here is a permanent loser and no one here is a permanent winner. Well, there's a lot of things I can appreciate about democracy. One of these is that it makes the citizens powerful. The real power lies in people's hands and not just the government. We have the right to correct our own mistakes. We have the right to either remove the government if it's not working properly or to continue with it. Do any other form provide these rights to people? Does any other form provide this power to people? No. So this is democracy. This is democracy where we can see the triple layered care system, where we have ward councillors, MLAs, MPs who are there to care for us. There are caretakers. They're there to work for us. And because we have elected them, we feel secure, we feel protected. Well, now let me get into the philosophical aspect of democracy. Have you ever realized the healthy relationship that democracy develops between the nation and the people? The voting right that we have, it's not just the voting, it's not just an opinion, it's a respect that we are given. That without a consent, the nation building process is impossible. We are asked about our views, and that's what makes us connected to the nation. It's a clear proof of love and dedication. The voting rights, one person, one vote, one value, and the universal adult franchise, all these is a clear proof of enhancing people's dignity. And if we love our country, we can never elect any wrong candidate. Just don't take voting thing as a joke. This is the thing that develops a relationship between the nation and the people. Democracy is not what it does to the government. It is what it does to the people or the citizens. Well, from a childhood, from the mother's love, we are taught about the democracy. Even in the school, in our syllabus, we can see the democracy. And when we reach the age of 18, we socially practice the democracy. Well, democracy is not the subject of learning. It is there in our heart and soul. It is there in the ups and downs of breath. And it is inbuilt in us from the mother's lap. Well, let's. I would like to conclude it by saying that the debate that we are having right now, it is following the principle of democracy, where we all are given equal chances to speak. And therefore, I believe that yes, democracy is indeed the best form of government in today's world. Thank you.
Nicely put. Nicely put. I specifically love the way Shravya how you pointed out the debate. Yes, in
Thank,
democracy you have this freedom of debating at least, and there are
thank you,
so
sir.
many other crises where you do. All right, so I'll now open the floor for an interjection. Any questions? And we have one, we have two. So let's go with Naman because Kashish, you've already gone once. So Naman, what about you, buddy?
Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted to ask that you talked about openly criticizing in public, and you talked about giving power to people, you talked about healthy relationship. But if we talk about the current scenario, you must know what happened yesterday in the US, Ashton Hill. So don't you think that democracy provides too much of freedom to people? Was that the correct way to protest what happened in Ashton Hill yesterday?
Okay, so what happened in the US? But then at the last, democracy won, right? Whatever happened, the conflicts and all, but then at the end, democracy was the one that, sorted all these things.
How?
Actually, there was nothing sorted.
Yeah.
There was there was a very huge kind of rough protest going. Nothing was sorted in that.
Okay, okay, let's not go there. All right. So that's it from for the motion side. Now let's, ladies and gentlemen, quickly move on to the other side of the motion. That's against the motion. From against the motion, first we have Naman itself. Naman,
Okay, so democracy. A democracy is two wolves in a lamp voting on what to have for lunch. Good evening, everyone. I am Naman Kashra from class 9, representing Lucky International School, and I'll be sharing my views against the motion. The false ideology of democracy being the rule of people has prevailed in our mind for ages. Although, with the new modern era, people have started to believe and have started recognizing the fault of democracy and have started to debate over how come such a flawed political ideology has been dominating the world for such a long period of time. In democracy, public of the nation have the power to directly influence the government policies and the outcome of them through voting or the use of press or campaigning. But most of these people have zero knowledge about democracy, and neither are, and most of them are neither interested in politics. But as a result, the effectiveness of these policies get robbed, and because of such immature opinions. American President John F. Kennedy once said that the ignorance of a single voter in democracy impairs the security of all. Honestly, every country wants economic growth to happen. But in democracy acts as a prevention. Because there are frequent elections happening in democracy and that keeps changing the government and this unstables the economic condition of the country. Well, although democracy is also criticized for the instability of coalition governments, and this brings us to the point how much political instability is provided by democracy. As per the former Prime Minister of United Kingdom, Mr. Winston Churchill, a man has no lasting friends, no lasting enemies, only lasting interests. The basis of coalition governments, they are just for the sake of a viable majority and not ideological similarities, and thus neither do they last long. When you sow the seed of democracy, the fruit you get is only corruption. No democracy is free of corruption. It is just that different democracies are corrupted in different ways. Democracy allows any unworthy person to attain power immediately, and this eventually harms the nation. Well, there is also a very defective way of working in democracy. As we have already talked about how the frequent election causes political instability, if we look into the process of these elections, we would gradually find out how much deeply corrupted they are. And that is the reason why we often hear news like unfair election due to electoral fraud or voter submission or intimidation. Abraham Lincoln once said that all men can stand adversity, but if you want to test a man's character, give him power. But the harsh truth of today is that our politicians are so hungry for power that they are ready to attain it anyhow. And in the process to attain power, they forget their morals, they forget their values. And here they change their mentality. As when they came, they wanted to serve the people. But now they are eventually are ruling the people. In this tug of war of power, it is eventually the common public who are at risk and the one who suffers the most. Because the politician who once came with a mindset to serve the
1 minute
people
left.
has now started to rule the people. And well, it is not only the politicians who are at fault. It is also the common public who votes. Because half of the public does not even bother to vote, and the rest half, amongst them, only half of them know who they are voting for. Because the ones who do not know who they are voting for, they just introduce corruption. They vote the party which gives them money or something of their interest, or they just randomly vote anyone. Well, now you would all think, what if not democracy?
15
Well, there
seconds
is an
left.
answer to there is an answer to all the problems of democracy, and that is epistocracy, such a system in which only the knowledgeable voters are allowed to vote. Last but not the least, I would like to say that there should also be such an exam or a high level of qualification for any individual to become a politician, because a politician is not only leader but also a representative of its people.
Done.
Thank you all for patient hearing.
You said aristocracy is the best form of government, Naman.
Such a system in which only the knowledgeable voters are allowed to vote and not everyone is allowed to vote.
Talk about being privileged, man. All right. I'll open the floor for interjection. Does anybody have a question, guys? Yeah, Kansha. Go on.
I, yeah, so as you said about only the knowledgeable people should be able to vote. How would you describe knowledgeable? The people who have big jobs and they earn a lot of money, or the people who work in farms and are able to, produce food and produce harvest that is consumed by those um, highly paid people.
Like, could you just sum up your question?
How would you
What
define
do you want to
knowledgeable?
ask?
Like, I want to ask, you said that only knowledgeable people should be able to vote, right?
So, how will you
Yeah,
test their knowledge? What is the measure or parameter you will use? What is the parameter for measuring that knowledge? How will you know who's knowledgeable and who's not?
well, knowledge is just a word. All I meant was that all the ones who are like who vote, who introduce corruption during voting, should not be allowed to vote. Only the ones having political knowledge should be allowed to vote.
So, you're talking about aristocracy and then you're talking about privileges and now you're talking about.
Sir, epistocracy, not aristo.
Oh, okay. That's what I thought. All right. So, Akansha, I hope that answered your question. All right. So, my next contestant is Shobit is done. And Naman. Oh, no. Shobit is there. Where is Shobit?
Sir,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
there.
I just saw you. I'm so sorry, Shobit. So, Shobit, go on. He's from the Manthan School, Greater Noida West.
Yes. So we all know the word democracy comes from two Greek words, demos meaning people and kratos meaning rule, which means rule by people, or government for the people. But I would like to ask you all a question. Is it really for all the people, and do the citizens have equal parts, or do they have the real part? Well, the obvious answer is a big no. The interest of the state and its organs is kept above the interest of the citizens, as we can see in the current scenarios. And and if a state feels threatened that citizens are demanding their rights, so they will not feel hesitant to put them down with a lethal force. For example, Kisan Andolan. So in this, farmers have been protesting about their rights, about the recent farm bills that have been passed by the government. But so of course they want a response. But in response, what they're getting, they're facing lathi charges. Water cannons are being fired on them. And amidst that, there was a news that a protester who tried to turn off the water cannon for other people, police has fired a case on him. And there was one more news that in September 2019, a journalist, police in UP filed a case on a journalist who tried to expose the mismanagement of government's free meal scheme, which is a very important scheme by the government. So he tried to expose it. So, in a democracy, is this what you call freedom of speech and expression? Where if you speak something, the government can put a case on you. And please don't get me started on other rights as well, because there are many cases on other rights as well. And then, second argument, countries like India, Nepal, and Bhutan, they have illiterate population. Citizens are undereducated and over self-indulgent. So instead of electing whoever thinks the best, they elect whoever looks the best. Now imagine a democracy with the most illiterate leader possible, who has no clue about politics, theory, justice, law, science, math, etc. In this, democracy tends to produce awful results. Now, of course, in a democracy, there is a lot of corruption. Leaders misuse their power in many ways. Now, of course, they are a part of the system, so which makes it easier for them to do so. Now, you can take an example that money from various projects, which have been allotted to various projects, they can be easily diverted to their own pockets first. Then, a lot of cases against the politicians can be suppressed by them. And if someone criticizes you or the government, just put case on him and put him in jail. Now democracies also pave way for dictatorship. History is a witness itself that democracies can be changed into dictatorship. Now, how can this happen? When leaders feel that they want more powers, or when losing an election may mean forfeiting their powers, they may seek over the country by force. The most famous example is Hitler, of course, we all know him. So he crushed the democratic structure of Germany and he established dictatorship. Now, other argument is that in a democracy, parties use any means to win the election. Now, may it be making false promises or do a lot of advertising, invest a lot of money. Now, speaking on investing a lot of money, well, I feel that in a democracy, the money is based on at a tremendous and on a large scale. Now, where is that money coming from? Well, it is a hard-earned money that you're paying as taxes. Well, around 3,500 crore rupees is spent on campaigning, and around 3,200 crore rupees is spent on conducting elections. And recently, the government has launched Central Vista project, in which new PMO, Parliament, Central Secretariat, and other buildings will be reconstructed at a cost of 20,000 crore rupees. Shocked, right? Well, it's 20,000 crore rupees by 2024. We all know India is going through a tough time. There is a lot of unemployment. There is cut in salaries. There is a economy fall of 23.9%. Where will that money come from? They will of course increase the taxes and other things. They will ask for fines, etc. Instead, what if they invest that 20,000 crore rupees on healthcare, education, reducing poverty? In 20,000 crore rupees, 135 state of art hospitals can be built. If the money is spent on the right things, imagine India would be a better place to live. Now, in many countries, the parliaments are very old. Like in USA, the parliament dates back to 1793. In Italy, 1505. In Spain, 1814. And India was constructed in 1927. It has not even completed 100 years. Now, there is one more situation that democracy leads to. It is called tyranny of the majority, in which if there is a majority, the rights of the minority can be snatched away, and this can be seen as example in several Islamic countries. And and another argument can be that democracy leads to delays. As a lot of people have to be consulted in a democracy, it will lead to delays. What if there is an emergency situation? Will you be consulting everyone? Of course not. It's an emergency situation, and this topic is very large. There are many other arguments also. But to wrap up, I would like to wrap up here by saying that democracy is only beautiful in theory. In practice, it is a fallacy. Thank you for your precious time.
Really, democracy is only beautiful in theory. We are living in democracy. All right, no problem. Wonderful point of view. So I'll open the floor for interjection. Anybody? Khushbu, right? Yeah, Khushbu, go
Yes,
on.
sir. Yeah, Shobit, as you said that in democracies, half of the sum or maybe more than half of the sum of money from programs for schemes is diverted towards the personal pockets of the politicians. But my question is, in a dictatorship or in any non-democratic government where there are no such schemes introduced only, where there are no such programs introduced, what happens to the money there? There, so clearly all the money is going in the pockets of the personal politicians and building their huge mansions. At least in a democracy, half of the amount is reaching to the poor or to the needy.
Okay, first of all, if you talk about other forms, it's not necessary that there are politicians in other forms. And and like in monarchy, take example for monarchy. Now you must have heard that there are many jasus type of people that work for the monarchies. So of course they are spread everywhere. So from anywhere the information might come to the ruler or who is the main head there. So he can handle that situation. But in democracy, uh, there is a lot of population in India. You don't know who is doing what. So it is very difficult in democracies to handle that.
I'm sorry, but I still didn't get the answer of where is the money going in a dictatorship or any non-democratic government. Thank you.
Well, Khushbu, do you know where the money is going in a democratic government?
Yes, sir. Of course,
How do you know that?
there are so many schemes and programs introduced. I
Like,
agree. I agree that all the money doesn't go to the
no, no, no,
poor.
no, no, no. But how do you track your money going to the government?
How can I track of a single person? But if you see on a large scale, if there are so many information about this on the news, a few days back I was going through the news.
You
It
do
was giving
remember
that
RTI has been cancelled, right? And that's your democracy. All right. I won't argue with you. I'm just here as a moderator, no problem. All right. So next we have is Ananya. Where are you, Ananya?
So here.
Where? Oh yeah, there you are. Go on, Ananya. Take on the floor.
Winston Churchill once said, the strongest argument against democracy is a 5-minute discussion with the average voter. Many forms of government have been tried and will be tried in this world of sin and woe. But no one pretends that democracy is perfect or all wise. Indeed, it has been said that democracy is the worst form of government, except for all of those other forms that have been tried from time to time. Greetings to all. My name is Anana Kakkar. I'm a student of class 9th from D.A.V World School. Today I'm going to be speaking against the motion on the topic, is democracy the best form of government? Democracy is essentially about masses and majority. It does not take collective intelligence of mass into it. Politicians, on the other hand, focus only on securing numbers and as a result, resort to what is popular than what is right. In general, masses vote and then the responsibility is considered over. They're not held accountable. So if a corrupt person is elected, we do not see masses held accountable for this. It is somehow again attributed to the system. A change of leader could result in change of policies, and this brings discontinuity, confusion, and risks all at the same time. Democracy can easily lead to a situation which is termed as the tyranny of the majority. In this situation, minority does not enjoy equal rights. A democratic government leaves out the needs of minorities, which might leave them feeling unconsidered, resulting in dissatisfaction. Moreover, by the time young people are granted voting rights, often at the age of 18, many of them will not have had any political education in school. How then can they be expected to know what voting behavior will be in their best interest? As young people might not have sufficient political knowledge and experience to make decisions that would benefit themselves and society as a whole, the faith placed in a democracy might backfire. Theoretically, we can indeed trust politicians to act on our behalf in the way that we expected them to when we elected them. But then again, how can we be so sure that they will remain consistent in their ideals and actions once they enter office? Though India has a democratic constitution, in reality, the power is in the hands of politicians, bureaucracy, rich, and the powerful. In many cases, people have no choice but to accept the decisions of ruling government. For example, from so many years, people are fighting against the installation of nuclear power plants. But still, the government was making deals with other countries to establish nuclear power plants. And all the people that are forced to leave their lands for development projects are poor people. I guess you knew that already. These power balances questions the very nature of democracy in India. Though people have the power of vote, many politicians are manipulating people in the name of caste, freebies, and welfare schemes. The rise in crimes and violence in India is a sign of failure of democracy. In other forms of governments, punishments for criminals, it's quick and severe. But getting justice is not at all easy in India. Many cases are pending in courts for years. Victims are forced to suffer again by visiting courts many times, if not throughout their lifetimes. We couldn't improve the situation with our own democratic constitution. In India, rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. That is the harsh reality. For these reasons, many people have put forward the idea that democracy is undesirable for a developing country in which economic growth and the reduction of poverty are top priority. So, in practice, democracy is not as straightforward and peaceful as the philosophical ideal of democracy would suggest. Hence, I will conclude by quoting Plato, who had said that democracy followed citizens' impulses rather than pursuing the common good, that democracies are unable to allow a sufficient number of their citizens to have their voices heard, and that such democracies were typically run by fools. Thank you.
Wonderful. I'll open the floor for interjection. Anybody who wants to? Nishtha?
Yes. I here want to ask one thing that democracy, you said that democracy is the race of power. But what about the other forms of government where the power are with the particular persons and where you do not have, where the people don't have their even rights to criticize the governments? I just want to ask that. What's your take on this?
Can you repeat your question? Actually, your voice was breaking at my end.
Oh, sorry. I will repeat. Democracy is the race of power, but what about the other forms of government where power are within the particular hands and where people do not have the right to question back and the government is also not accountable to people? What's your take on this?
Those are different forms of governments, and in a democracy, people do have the right to vote, and people do have to take. People can speak, they can do protests and stuff, but so many times, even if the people speak, they're not heard. Those protests, they are dissolved, and they're not heard. Nothing changes in any policies. I don't want to take like a name of that policy, but a very recent policy, people were protesting because they didn't like it. There was no take on that policy, and though in India we can speak, whatever we want to, but sometimes it all dissolves and it ends in nothing but silence.
Thank you, Ananya.
Okay, wonderful, man. All right. So next we have is Kashish Khemani. Yes, Kashish.
Very, yes. Should I start?
Yeah, Kashish, you should start, but let me tell you that Bhavna, Preeti, then Arin, then Namisha, then Tanish, not Tanish actually, but yeah, I've been hearing a lot of messages on live chat for you to come on board, and they're all praising you.
Okay.
So best of luck, Kashish.
Thank you so much. A very good evening, everyone. I am Kashish Khinnani representing Gyan Vihar School, and as we have gathered here, I'm going to speak against the motion over democracy being the best form of government. Well, democracy is a word which means many, many different things to numerous diversities of people around the globe. Democracy is titled the most ideal form of freedom. But let me ask you all, what is freedom? Is it incapacitating a person enough that he lacks the basic means of livelihood for the sake of getting control? Yeah, that's democracy. Maybe you find my words too extreme, but let me remind you all that we live in a country with 27% population being poor, not being able to earn proper quantity and quality of food. Garibi Hatao, the slogan chanted all along since 1971. I don't know if you can find the results, but I, being a normal citizen of this country, can't. For me, democracy seems to be a vicious circle of scams, corruption, and manipulation of the innocent citizens who tend to believe the propagandas of the politicians who have mastered the skills at this. Even the benefits of democracy are relative. It depends on who you are and where you are in the global system. Also, living in a democratic country doesn't mean your interests are protected. Your safety depends on the values espoused by your government. Now, my dear opponents would definitely like to say that democracy gives the freedom to its citizens to choose their representatives. But here I would like to contradict giving two arguments. First of all, there's a minority of the population whose chosen representative is elected. And second of all, what can we even say about the political parties? There's no credibility that they will stand on their words and claims that they have made during the time of elections. And what about the cost of democracy? The fog of liberty crowned by democracy have made us blind and incapable of realizing that the cost of democracy is an agony in disguise. Democracy is one of the most cost efficient forms of government that exist today. The time and monetary resources that are necessary to conduct an election can be a hindrance to the potential development from the very means. Even a local election for city council, mayor, or school board can cost six figures. That's just the official number, not the real one which can be accounted upon. And where does this extraneous amount comes from? Corruption. In democracy, there's a chance for full-fledged and terminated corruption. Unhealthy political compromises are made, coalitions are formed, throwing all principles to winds thereby. Privileges and power are distributed among the supporters of the regime rather than giving to those who deserve. Not just that, it even gives room to middlemen. The ones who play with the small and marginal producers and hinder their remuneration and feed on their labor, which deflates their potential level of development, which they can make, and that in turn desolates the producer's hope for a good future. And you know what? The desolation doesn't stop here. The public sector complemented on another level. Can you feel the consumers when the public sector fails to provide sufficient utility to them? And that's when the role of private sector comes in and influences the consumer pattern. And in some years, dominate the fulcrum of level play. Thus, the public sector enterprise whose basic ideal was to provide basic amenities at a diligent price fails to do so, which in turn disrupts the field play of democracy. As we have come to economics, let me remind you about the very paradox about the most developed democratic countries. They all adopted non democratic measures when the economy was taking off. And that's how we rationalize the untouched parts of the facts. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Kashish. Wonderful, yeah. Quite powerful. And yeah, so all the live chat that was going on, they were actually true. All right, so no problem. I'll open the floor for interjection. If anybody wants to interject, Kashish. I can't see any interjection. None? All right. So I'll move forward to the last but not the least contestant, Mohini Sharma from the International School, Agra. Mohini,
Yes, sir.
where are you? Oh, there you are. Right,
Yes.
Mohini, go on, please, beta.
Hello, everyone. In our daily life, we all listen to the word democracy, democracy everywhere. Also, our countries, most of the countries are turning democratic. But the democracy we practice is far more different from what is the true democracy. I'm surprised after listening. On 6 January 2021, that is just 2 days ago, supporting Donald Trump stormed the capital, Washington, D.C., breaching security and occupying the parts of the White House for several hours, leading to nearly 5 deaths and more than 60 people were injured. Is this the system of consent democracy? We all hear that by the right to vote, every citizen builds a special bond with the nation. Every citizen participates in nation building. But where do we see this bond? We just see the low voting percentages. How can we say that most of the people participate in nation building when the voting percentages do not exceed even 60% in a country like India, which we say is the largest democracy in the world? And let me show you the mirror to this also. Most of the people in these 60% are not educated and are not aware of what is right and what is wrong for the nation. And hence, they vote for just their benefit. They vote for just their welfare. A Brahmin votes for a Brahmin. A Muslim votes for a Muslim. And similarly, a criminal votes for a criminal. And I'm not saying this just like that. Let me show you some data analysis also. In 2014, 185 out of 539 MPs in the Indian Parliament had criminal cases filed against themselves. And in 2019, 233 out of 539, I repeat, 233 out of 539 MPs, that means 43% of the MPs had criminal cases against themselves. And out of that also, 116 had severe criminal cases against them. After listening this, do you think that without proper awareness and information, a person can elect and choose democracy is helping us to hand over our nation to the correct hands? I don't think so. For being a true democracy, every citizen needs to play a role, an equal role in decision information, basic education, and a lot of commitment. Also, my friend said that democracy consists of free and fair elections. But are they really free and fair? No. Political parties give and receive bribes. They use vote bank politics and threaten people of violence. And the people in need and greed of money give their votes to the parties. Is this the free and fair elections? No. Is this leading to a true democracy? Not at all. It is just because of the number game in democracy. Every party wants to achieve that magic number and wants to enjoy luxuries. Another aspect of democracies is that it slows down the processes. Is there some disturbance behind?
Go on, Mohini, go on, go on. It's okay, go on, go on.
Okay, sir. Another aspect of democracy is that it slows down processes. And what does these slow down processes result in? the result in slowed down economic development. And hence, we see that economic development is slowed down during democracy, and the non democratic nations experience unhindered, unfettered economic growth. And now, how can I forget one of the biggest drawbacks of democracy? Corruption.
You have only 10
The
seconds
inability.
left, Mohini. Mohini, you have 10 seconds left. Go on quickly, hurry it up, sum it up.
Sir, 10 seconds? I just started. I mean,
You've been talking for 5 minutes now. You need time for interjection as well, right? Or you do not want people to interject because interjection has more points. It's okay, go
okay,
on, it's
sir.
up to you. You don't want interjection or not.
In the last, I would like to conclude that democracy just flies like a free kite in the air. Thank you so much.
Okay, democracy flies like free kite in the air. Alright. I'll open the floor for interjection. Anybody who wants to interject? Nishtha? Rashi wants to interject. Go on. Go on, Rashi.
My question to you would be would you like to live in a country where human rights are restricted or where you don't even have the right to protest or express your opinion?
See, I don't say that any other form like dictatorship or some other is a good form of democracy, is a good form of government. I believe that there needs to be implementation of true democracy. It is just the partial democracy which we are practicing. That's it. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much, Mohini. All right, so that brings up to the end of the debate. Before I go on to my educators, we take on the results, and then they express they'll give you pointers and insight how they can help you out and everything. I'm sure. So my team will calculate all the results and everything. In the meanwhile, let me quickly ask Antony sir. Antony sir, are you done with the result? Have you messaged everything? Antony sir, you're on mute. You're on mute.
Yes, sir. Ready, sir.
Antony
Ready.
sir, Antony sir, and Renuka ma'am, Megha must have WhatsApped you in that group.
Group.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you can
Uh,
just drop the result over there.
yeah.
Meanwhile, if somebody is finished from the educator and they want to give their point of views,
Shall I talk now?
yes, you can talk, sir.
Yeah. Quick review from my side. I'm A. Antony Robert Kennedy, Principal of Indian International School, Erode, Tamil Nadu. First of all, I thank Entab and Marketing Head Mr. Himanshu sir, Mrs. Mega Man, and most respected all the judges. Now, come to the point. For all the students, you all spoke well. The point which attracted me is rule the people, by the people, and for the people. India, you all know that India is the large democracy of the world. Democracy promotes equality among citizens as it is people's own government. It enhances the dignity of the individual, quality of decision making, and it provides methods to resolve conflicts. Some of you opposed, saying people voice is not heard, people are not allowed to voice out their views. If many ideas are given, everything cannot be implemented. So, after hearing your arguments about democracy, I would like to appreciate each and every student for your sincere and best effort to talk about the motion and against the motion. Thank you, Enter. Thank you all. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. Himanshu sir,
Thank you so much, Antony sir. Totally agree with you. Jasmeet ma'am, over to you. You're on mute, ma'am. Just meet, ma'am. Could you please unmute yourself? It would be the microphone button, ma'am. It's okay. Uh,
Yeah,
yeah.
hello. Am I audible now?
Yes, ma'am. You are loud and clear.
Well, it was wonderful listening to all the contestants, and they were, of course, expressed their views in different reviews. So, first of all, my congrats to all the contestants that, irrespective of what our results are going to be, it's really appreciable that they have come up and expressed their views so well. So, it's really commendable. That is one thing I really wish to say, and they should not get disheartened even if they don't happen to be the winner because amidst them one has to be the winner. So the views were very nicely worded, and especially when we talk about the views which were expressed for the moment, I would say that it was really something well expressed. That since we ourselves are in a nation which is following the democratic form of government, and definitely, especially, I would like to just point out. um the views which were given by Nishtha, very nicely worded. I especially
Yeah.
liked to,
Thank you
there were
so
others
much,
also reading it
ma'am.
very nicely. And it was very nicely worded that what all she felt about democracy. And I am also strongly a supporter of democracy. And I really feel, in spite of all the other things which we see, that so many flaws are there, like the contestants that talked about corruption comes in with the democracy, and so many other fallacies are there. But still, we would say that since we say it is the government, of the government, for the government, by the government, so by the people, so definitely it is more, I would say, open, in which everybody has a say in the policies, and they have more rights to elect their government. But still, as everything has a pros and cons, if we just think of the other governments also, so they do combat many of the fallacies which the democratic government is bringing forth. But I think at the same time, I think it's democracy which rules, and it does has an upper hand, according to me. But still, I appreciate all the views by you, especially Nishtha and the other contestants also.
Thank you,
It
ma'am.
was really very nice hearing you all. And as a judge, I think it was really difficult to actually decide that who's the best amidst you all. For me, everyone is the best, and you really worded your views so well. So, good luck to all of you till the results are declared, and my good wishes to all of you.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much, ma'am. Thank you so much for the lovely words. And Nishta, kudos, dude. All right. Last but not the least, Renuka, ma'am, your valuable words and insights. Ma'am, you're on mute as well.
Good evening, everyone. Okay, I thank for the opportunity by the Entab.
Thank you, ma'am.
They were okay. That is, they were asking about this. Immediately, we accepted because we were free during this time, and we want to have an interaction with the children also, which we missed out. And okay, everyone did well. Okay, it is for the motion and against the motion. They collected the points which they collected were very well, they said, and they presented well. And some of them were telling that okay, it is afraid of each other. No need to afraid of okay anyone, because if the freedom is given, we should know how to use the freedom. That is more important in democracy. How to use that freedom you will be getting only through the education. I believe that once you are educated, you know where to use, how to use, and where to restrict ourselves. So that is called as the freedom. Democracy means freedom. So okay, for the motion they were telling, and against the motion, more of corruption is happening, which we should accept. But no, only the rules and regulation to be framed, and the punishment should be strict, and it should be transparent to the public, so that okay, this will get okay, that is avoided, or we will eliminate. As educationists, we want to only the what is that the corruption has to be taken from the country in all the areas. Only I think so. This young the leaders, the students who now that is represented for the democracy, they are the people. They should lead the country without this which they feel very bad in democracy has to be taken out. Okay, so as an educationist, I that is the belief that only the if the education system is strong, we are able to bring all this rules and regulation clearly in our system. And I congratulate all the children. They were taken the effort to present this session very well. Okay, I hope so. Everyone got the that is points related to the democracy. Some are presented very normally, and some were collected more of information and the examples and the facts which they collected. It was wonderful. The ninth and the 10th students, see, because in that level we didn't have that much knowledge, but I hope so. It is good for us, but we only should educate people which is good and which is not good. Thank you, children. Thank you.
Thank you, Renuka ma'am,
Thank you,
for the
sir.
lovely words. Ma'am, my team just informed me you haven't shared the result in the WhatsApp group. If you could do that, just
Definitely.
click a photo.
Within 1 minute, I will do that.
Yeah, yeah, no problem, ma'am. Meanwhile, I'll talk to the kids. So, guys, how was your experience and everything? Everybody pointed out
It was
democracy.
different.
Everybody pointed out. By the way, not that I'm from the tech sector or anything. Has anybody? I wanted people to. I wanted. I actually thought that one of you might point out technocracy. Has nobody heard of the term technocracy? Technocracy. None of you. Okay. So this might come as a shock to you, but I am not a supporter of democracy. Um, I understand the concept of democracy and everything, but hear me out before I'm, barraged with comments of dislike and everything. So, according to me, democracy is a failed form of government. Why? Because when it comes to democracy, a person who's offering something free will always have voters for him, right? And a person who is actually eligible for the job, he might not win the election. So, according to me, technocracy is the best form of government where technical experts in their field. For example, if you look at New Zealand, if you look at Canada, people Minister of Health holds a PhD in public health work. A Minister of Science holds a PhD and a doctorate in the field of space and research. So you need technical experts for technical jobs. These are jobs, right? So I thought anybody would love to explore technocracy, but none of you did. So it's okay, no problem. And before I, go. So I have on my live chat, there are many Tanisha, Arin, and then Tarun, and Sensei. So I have a lot of supporters for Ananya and Shrabya and Mohini. Tanya wishes you all the best. Then, okay, so Ratan is saying that his campus care app is not working. Ratan, if you want, you can call 4319 3333 and press 9 for parent help desk. So, I guess everything is done now, and my team is calculating the score. So, just give me 5 seconds and I'll get back to you. All right?
So I have sent the result in the WhatsApp. Can you
Okay,
please
ma'am,
check?
Renuka, ma'am. Sure, Megha is just right in front of me. She's behind the camera and she's adding the scores and everything. So,
Yes, Neha, no?
Megha,
Uh,
yes, ma'am, Megha.
Neha.
So, let her quickly add the results and everything. So we'll come back. Ananya, uh, Ananya, Sensei is saying that your content was superb, and Joyraj Patnaik is saying Ekansha, you were good, and yeah. So to be very honest, I guess Kashish, you've had the most supporters in the live chat, yeah. What's that all about? You must have like. Thank you, Kashish, for sharing the link so much. To be very honest, so I have the final results. These are the final results, right? Okay. Megha is taking her own sweet time, guys. So, acha, by the way, anybody who truly believes democracy is the best form of government, come on, guys, you can answer. It's not that we're not live on YouTube.
But I feel that all forms of government are good. Only if the people and the rulers are good. Because that's what makes a form of government.
Diplomacy. Huh? Very good.
I don't think that democracy is the worst form of government. Neither it is the best, but it is the best among all the other forms that we have currently, all the other options that we have currently. It's the best
Okay.
in those options.
So we can say that the least bad amongst the baddest of all.
Okay. Really? Don't you think so? Democracy has failed. Have you
So
seen
it has,
Singapore?
but still, sir, it's working.
How?
Sir, in other countries, it is working. Like Finland, Norway, and Iceland. Democracy is still working there.
And after a lot of anarchy and monarchy, they chose after
Well, I would
100
like to say it's only about the people and government because the least developed countries are also democratic.
democratic. Exactly my point. So it's basically intention, guys. What we intend our government to do, and then, for example, the protests are going on, right? But have you seen any national media covering it? Think about it. Be honest. I know all of you are there on YouTube, and you must have seen on your YouTube recommendations that you've been getting updates, right? But and I'm in Delhi, so I know the protests are happening right across my border. It's a very sorry, sad state of affairs when the media is being purchased, and that's democracy for you guys. So no problem. Mega done. Please pass on. Jesus, Mega. Mega is still taking her own seat time, guys. And I know, Mega, people are saying it's getting awkward. Somebody is saying sassy. Arun Srivastava. Kashish, somebody is saying sassy reply by you. You have artist supporters. हो गया Mega? Jesus Christ, Mega is confused. Mega, I have 10 kids and 3 educators waiting for your command. Alright. Guys, say hey to Mega. Come now.
Hi. Hello
So
everyone.
that's Megha, and that's why we took so much of a long time. So, all right, not bad. So, by the way, let me tell you one thing. I know a lot of people might be thinking that why we're winning and why we're not winning, right? Yeah. So, wait, this is against the motion. I was supposed to announce. So, all right. Remember, guys, there were few who were reading, and trust me, even the educators knew they were reading, and even I knew they were reading. I'm not going to point out names. I'm not going to take out names. You should be smart enough not to do that. So for against the motion, we have the Manthan School Greater Noida Shobit. Congratulations, Shobit, you won. And for the motion, we have Nishtha. Nishtha, Kangi.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So good job, guys. Congratulations. Contact Megha and everything, the email IDs and everything. Contact. She'll get you with the work, everything that you have won and so on and so forth. Thank you for all the educators, Renuka ma'am, Antony sir, and then Jasmeet ma'am, for actually taking out time and spending some lovely moments with us. And for all my lovely subscribers and my viewers who have come, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please subscribe. Thank you for CampusCare Debate and have a nice day. Good evening. Take care and have a safe weekend. Bye.